All right, everybody, Agatha All Along. It's out. It's there. The gayest Marvel project to date. Well, according to the cast and crew, that is. Look, before we get into the episode 1 review, I want to put out on Front Street the trailers for this show just didn't look all that promising to me. You add to that the cast and crew, the way they started talking about it, seemingly going down the same path of the cast and crew of The Acolyte, putting their foot in their mouth even before the show comes out. You then add to that the many issues that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has had over the last 5 years. I just didn't see a reason to get excited for this show. Granted, there was one aspect that seemed a little promising. This was going to be the first MCU show that was going to use and approach television the proper way. They were going to have a showrunner actually run the show, as opposed to using a director going the movie route and having a director and maybe even a writer run the show. So that was kind of promising. You also have Kathryn Hahn, who, by all accounts, she is a really fun actress. She's a great comedian actress who, yes, can be over the top with her comedic roles and really chew up scenery because of how over the top she is. But I find myself, when I see her in a film and a project, I enjoy what I see from her. When we saw her in WandaVision, she really owned the role, and it was a different type of role for her, but it worked and she owned it and I enjoyed it. So it was easy to see, like, okay, we're going to see an Agatha series. I can see why they're going to do this. The problem comes, will they do it right? That's the same problem that we had over on the Star Wars side with The Acolyte. Yes, you do a show about villains. You do a show about a villain. But will they do it right? Or will they fall down this same old habit of us feeling sorry for the villain becoming a hero, and then them becoming a hero, and then they're not a villain anymore? That has to stop. Make a show about a villain and make the villain a villain. Like, do something different. So is this show going to fall down that same trend? And that's kind of what I was worried about. So let's just kind of move on here, okay? Let's move on. Now, the show really starts off here with Agatha. I'm sorry. In the show, they call her Agnes at first because that's who she was on WandaVision. Kind of in a dream state of sorts. And this happens because of her battle with Wanda at the end of WandaVision. She loses all of her powers, and she's now acting as a detective at the Westview PD, and she's investigating a murder. Look, this entire first episode is dedicated to this aspect, and honestly, my family and I, the few of us that were watching this show, we sat there pretty bored with this the entire time. Even I knew what was happening during this show, during this episode. And even I was sitting there like, this is ridiculous. I had, my fiance sat there and she was like confused on what was happening. Now, she's not a hardcore Marvel watcher. She's not somebody who sits there and watches every single Marvel show and Marvel movie and everything like that, like I do. And WandaVision came out 3 years ago. The fact that you're expecting people to remember this kind of stuff and understand what's going on and realize that, hey, there could be like a weird mind game going on is kind of ridiculous. Not to mention that, it doesn't really work because the way that Kathryn Hahn is kind of chewing up the scenes and really overacting here just really wasn't working. It was off-putting, and I get that it's kind of the reason for it. It's kind of supposed to make it seem like there's something odd here. It's supposed to be off-putting, but it was so off-putting that everybody that was watching it in my living room picked up their phone and was like, hey, let's go on our phone here and do something on our phone on social media. They weren't paying attention because it wasn't interesting. It wasn't funny, it wasn't good, it wasn't interesting. And that was a problem. Now, for me, it got interesting when Aubrey Plaza's character showed up. She made her grand entrance and she absolutely stole the show. And, it was really 3 disappointingly short scenes in this first episode. She came in the police department, she came in again at her house, and then she came in at the end. And when she came in, she stole each and every scene that she came into. It was like, Aubrey Plaza, she is one of these actresses that you just want to see her in more and more and more. Like, she has gotten better every single time I see her in something. And she is just a phenomenal actress. She really is. And I don't understand why she isn't in more and doing more. But here we sit. She is now in a Marvel show that just is probably way below her. It really is. Now, there was a sense of mystery surrounding her character, which made things interesting for her. But then again, you kind of expect that with a show like this. So we'll see what this mystery about her is. Maybe that's going to keep me interested moving forward. Maybe that keeps anybody and everybody interested, but we'll see what that does. Now, in a typical Marvel fashion, they did do some ridiculous things. We got our taste of the DEI in this episode with the inclusion of the gay character, this guy right here. And I only bring this up because of the comments made by the cast and crew on the red carpet premiere of this being the gayest Marvel show ever. Look, at this point, he wasn't overbearingly gay. I mean, specifically in this episode, or even in the second episode, the only thing that we got that mentions or signifies that he's gay is his cell phone rings at one time and it says, "Boy F." And then he mentions his boyfriend at one point in time in the second episode. Again, not really showcasing that this is the gayest show ever. But again, I'm highlighting this that, okay, yes, we got a gay character in the show. They highlight it in a couple scenes here. What was the big idea? What was the big deal about them highlighting this aspect on the red carpet that it's the gayest show ever? Again, we got multiple episodes left. Let's see how that plays out. But again, why make a comment like that if the first 2 episodes that were at the premiere and then our premiere to everybody is simply this? It's baffling to me why they went that route and why they were so adamant and excited to talk about something like that. It's weird. Really weird. The next thing, though, was sort of pointless. When Agatha, whatever you want to call her, finally wakes up from her stupor of being, in this trance of being a detective in Westview and realizes that she's been basically asleep for the last 3 years, she walks outside buck-ass naked. And I get it. Ha, laughs. And it could have ended there. I mean, it really could have. The neighbor that she's speaking with tries to give her his coat, and it could have just ended there. But no, she refuses it, and she walks off. She walks off. Completely buck-ass naked. She walks off. Why do we need to see her 51-year-old flabby ass? That's all I want to know. Come on, Marvel. What are we doing? We don't need to see these cheap laughs in this show. It makes no sense. Anyways. When all is said and done, the only revelations for the audience in this episode are that Agatha has been in a trance for sort of like 3 years. She has no witch powers because Wanda took them. Aubrey Plaza's character wants her dead, as do the Salem witches, which we saw a bit of that in the WandaVision series. Again, there's no flashback to that. And that's about it. There's no exposition. There's no character storytelling in this episode. They focus so much time on this ridiculous bit of her being in this trance. They spend 30 minutes on this bit of her being in this trance. It could have been 5-10 minutes worth. But they focus so much time about it, which is pointless. It bored everybody to death that, come on. They could have spent so much more time in exploring why the Salem witches want her dead. Because remember, there are people who may not have watched WandaVision that are watching this. Should you have watched WandaVision? Absolutely. But you may not have. There's people who don't know who Aubrey Plaza's character is. I don't. We don't. Sure, they may want to reveal that later down the line. But she ate up these scenes. She was so good in it. You want more of her. So maybe find a way to expand her character a bit more in this because she was so good. You could have really done maybe even the first half of the second episode in this episode, but also expand a little bit more of the story in the second episode and this episode, even more, giving us more story. That's kind of the theme of these first two episodes, is there's just no story that's expanded on. Aubrey, like I said, stole the show. Catherine Hahn was fine, but she wasn't given very good material in this episode at all. Again, episode 2 has to be better though, right? Right? Look, if you want to continue hearing my review, stick around because you will get episode 2 review here on this channel. So hit that like button, hit subscribe. If you guys like these reviews, make sure you follow me. Comment down below, share this around, because if these continue to get views, I will continue reviewing these. But let me know your thoughts on episode 1 of Agatha All Along. Yeah, guys, it wasn't great. It was not great. At least episode 1 wasn't. So let's take a look and see what episode 2 will bring us. But with all that said, I'll catch you all later.